Let's roll. And we're live. Sweet. Let's go ahead and get this chat set up. Once I get the chat finished set up here, we'll go ahead and start our discussion. All right. Still setting up the chat. Bear with me. Come on. Properties. Cool. All right. Do we have chat? Let me know if you're in the chat. See if it's working. I'm here. It's working for me. All right. Well, as I get going here, I let my people know that I'm coming on at 8. Here we are. I'm a little early. Not that early. Wanted to just go ahead and start talking about things, but I kind of wanted a discussion here. I wanted to talk with my viewers, concurrent viewers. Let me make sure this is. Oh, I guess it is all set up. Well, I guess while we're waiting for more people to join the chat here, kind of go ahead and start glossing over some of what I want to talk about. Obviously, by the title and the thumbnail, I wanted to talk about aux fueling and Ecoboost cars. So plain and simple, Ecoboost cars, and more or less specifically 2-3 applications in the Mustang. More or less what we're aiming for here, right? But generally, this information applies to all Ecoboost, most boosted engines in general, but especially Ecoboost, because they're very temperamental with fueling. And, it's hard to get the power you need out of the Ecoboost with the factory fuel system. So you have a very not great fuel system. Ford doesn't give you much. They give you about 400 or so wheel horsepower's worth of fuel, and that's it. And that's pretty much on 93. Beyond that, you are looking for everything on the aftermarket, and there's a lot of other options like to get additional fuel in the system. But depending on what way you go, it gets extraordinarily expensive. And, it just, when things get too expensive, you find yourself questioning why you're spending so much money to make a 4-cylinder Mustang, make 500-600 horsepower or so. And that's kind of the whole thing. Like, my whole take on the Ecoboost, it's supposed to be the more affordable, fun platform for the Mustang. If you're not looking to go big boy power, with the V8, the Coyote. So that's the thing. Like, if it's an Ecoboost, it has to be cheap. The problem is to upgrade the fuel system. If you go in the way of upgrading the high pressure fuel pump and the injectors, you're looking, depends on which pump, how much power you're looking to make and what fuel you're running, but you are looking to spend, $2,000-$3,000 minimum, depending on what kit you go with, what pump you go with. I mean, generally a, $2,500 will in an upgraded high pressure fuel pump and some injectors will satisfy 90% of Ecoboost builds. which for 2,500 bucks, I guess it's not that bad. But I am a cheap ass. So I like to just do everything as cheap as possible, but not cheap in the sense of bad quality, cheap in the sense of affordability. Like, you know, I'm not going to spend all my hard earned money on these excessively expensive parts to make my car go fast. So there are some options to save money in the EcoBoost world and to, you know, be able to get yourself some aux fueling, you know, some additional fueling without having to upgrade the high pressure fuel pump and the injectors or intake pump, depending on which, like I said, which way you go. So to kind of kick that off, you know, one of the main sources of aux fueling you see nowadays that's being heavily marketed by most of the companies who sell this stuff for the EcoBoost cars are things like this right here. So this is a aux port fuel system, and actually this is actually not even an aux system. What this is a supplemental fuel system. Yeah, supplemental, not aux. Because what this does is it gives you this really cool spacer plate to go in front of your intake manifold. You have a fuel rail, you have 4 injectors, port injection. You have this thing here, plugs in right off your high pressure fuel pump and sends a line to the rail here. And yeah, you have 500, 600 plus wheel horsepower capable system here on E85, starting at $1,500 right there. So, and that's if you want big boy power. So let's see, full E85 450 to 475 wheel horsepower, E50 and below is 575 wheel. Okay, so if you wanted to make some big boy power, well, bigger boy power with the EcoBoost, this is what you're going to need right here. So you're looking at that's $50 more for these injectors. If you get bigger injectors that aren't included in this kit, you can even run, you know, full E85 500 600 wheel horsepower. Or I think that's pretty good. $1,500 $1,500 for this kind of kit is pretty good. I don't know. You tell me. I think that's pretty good. Anyone viewing, you want to go ahead and throw your comment in the chat just to make sure it's all working? I'm pretty sure I got it working right. Just let me know you're here. I see there's 4 of you. You got to say something. You got to let me know stuff's working. But yeah, so a system like that can support a good amount of power. Like, you know, obviously you're on a built engine with any type of aux fuel because it's just, you don't need it really on a factory engine. Factory fuel system exceeds what the factory block or bottom end can handle. So if you are on a built engine, you're looking to make 500-600 wheel horsepower, yeah, you can spend $2,500 on a high pressure fuel pump and injectors. Thanks, man. Thanks for confirming that's working. And it's if I had this set up right, you should all see your chat, all your comments over in the right. So kind of help keep tabs on the conversation here. So thanks, man. But so you can make good power, but you're spending $2,500, where at least with a supplementary aux fuel system, you're at $1,500. So for me, I would go supplemental port system all day long over high pressure fuel pump injectors, DI injectors, because you're getting other benefits too. It's not just additional fuel flow, but then you're getting the benefit of having the atomization of fuel coming through the intake port. It's going to help clean the injectors. It's going to help with keeping combustion temps lower. You know, it's going to be a little bit of a cooling effect that way. This This is a superior solution. Now, of course, depending on how much power you're trying to run, you're going to need this and a high pressure fuel pump and, upgraded DI injectors. But like I said, 600, 650 wheel, we're looking between let's say five to 600 wheel. Like what most like just everyday higher horsepower EcoBoost builds, where they're going to be at realistic, numbers, going to be a pretty decently reliable combination. That's what I'm focusing on here. So $1,500 is a hell of a lot cheaper, right? Than that upgrading the high pressure fuel pump and the injectors, DI injectors. So this is just one of the flavor of port injection systems we have. So if we go over here, we'll find another example of a supplemental port injection system. This one's a little bit more money. This one, however, if you spec it out correctly, so it gives you, this kit allows you to run, they include bigger injectors for $185 more. So that bumps you up to $1,635. And let's see, what do they show on the graph here? Max power 437, 385. I guess that's with and without. You get some nice gains up top there. So okay, they're running an E30 blend. That's what it was. E30 93 octane. So 93 octane, you can only run so much timing up top, and upper RPMs. That's where you get that extra power, is from extra octane running more timing. More timing makes a difference in that top end power with boost. So that's what you see there. So this is just another one of them for $1,635. This will allow you to run, according to what I've read, this will allow you to run stock, fuel pump, blah, 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 blah. If you were looking to push your engine beyond 600 wheel horsepower, you need to purchase our surge tank port injection system, which includes a larger low pressure fuel pump and is capable. Okay, so this kit here, if you upgrade the in-tank pump with their big injectors and all that, you can run, was it 600 and capable of supporting 750 wheel horsepower and fuel flow on full E85. No blending, straight from the pump. So yeah, this kit's definitely got a little bit more sauce in it, right? So that's those two right there. Of course, there's even more. At $1,600, I guess it doesn't make, if you really are trying to push the boundaries of your combo, your bottom end, if you have a turbo that can support 600 plus, if you have a head that can support 600 plus, and a bottom end that can support that, then yeah, I probably would spend the extra $100 and $200, less than $200 to get that other kit. But doesn't seem like that is that much of a difference. To me, I think it's worth it. Now, there's even more. So remember how I'm saying these are supplemental aux fueling, or it's not even aux fueling. I don't know why I keep saying that. It's supplemental port injection. Let's look at another option here, which is true aux fueling. So it is the same idea as those kits. I don't know if they have, so I don't think this kit actually includes a, what do you call it? Anything to mount the injectors in. No, doesn't seem like it does. Inline and blah, blah, blah. No. So, but this kit here is a true aux kit, meaning it is capable of running a separate fuel in a, remote fuel cell here, separate from what's in your fuel tank in your car. So you can run 93 in your normal tank and then have E85 chilling in this tank, you know, mount it in the trunk or wherever, have E85 in this tank ready to rock. And this kit here is capable of supporting 750 wheel horsepower. I'm trying to see. Yeah. So, but this kit here is a lot more expensive because it's a lot, you gotta, you know, more components, you know, you have to have the fuel cell. So you're looking at $2,730 here. And like I said, don't even look like they include the intake spacer to mount the injectors. That's another $200-300 depending who you go with. So you're looking at $3,000 here on a true aux fuel kit, aux port fuel kit. So, but you're capable of 750 wheel horsepower with this kit. So it's like, man, at that point, would you just go with the other, you know, supplemental kits and just, you know, run one tank of fuel, run one kind of fuel? Or would you spend that same money and upgrade the high pressure fuel pump and DI injectors and be able to, you know, run almost the same amount of wheel horsepower without even having to worry about all the DI, you know, all the other port stuff, the plumbing and all that. So, you know, this is another example of port injection. Most people are going with setups like this. Where is it? Setups like this because it just plugs into your factory fuel system. Worst case scenario, you spend $300 on an intake pump, not a big deal. And, you know, for less than $2,000, you have more fuel than than most of the rest of your combo can really support. So this is really the way to go. Unless you're like me and you are on a huge budget. I'm talking about huge. Like, oh, well, you know, $2,000 ain't too bad. Well, $2,000 ain't too bad, I guess, in the grand scheme of things. But when you compare it to, oh, I don't know, let's say a water methanol system that we have here. Okay, here's one here. Water methanol system that here's like a pre-built kit for $687, and this, you know, this kit can only support like 450 or so horsepower. So, but you'd still be around this here if you were going to do it the way I'm planning to do it myself and what I would suggest. So, but let's say under $700 for a water meth kit, which is essentially a aux fuel kit. It is a true aux fuel. It has a remote reservoir, a separate pump. It's just like that remote kit up here. Where is it? This one, just like this, except this, you know, except this is just different in how it's configured. You're probably running bigger lines, like a -8 line, probably, for fuel. And you're running fuel injectors, you know, which are basically just solenoids. Where here, you're not running fuel injectors, you're running nozzles. And maybe a solenoid, but that's more or less to control, you know, flow after the system is off. It's not really to control, well, I guess it could be to control flow at high output, but generally it's not what it used. But this is a true aux fuel system, right? So, but you're saying to yourself right now, you're like, okay, you just literally showed us that this says it only can support an extra 30-50 wheel horsepower, and you're spending $600. What's the deal? Why are we even comparing these two? Because you have to compare it apples to apples. The port injection systems have one injector per port, okay? You can do the same thing. Like here's an example. This is a Ford Focus manifold. But this is an example of what you can do with a water methanol kit. you could do it this way. And in fact, I actually probably will run some nice stainless hard lines like that. Like that just looks nice. And, you basically run a nozzle in each port. So you have one nozzle feeding each cylinder. So, when you do it that way, then your water methanol kit, can support a lot of power. Oh, excuse me. And you can run higher mixes of water or methanol. The water methanol mix is from what, they found out back in the original, days when they started using these things on freaking, World War II aircrafts. The chemistry, the chemistry in the mix, they found that was best at a 50-50 water methanol. Not just for octane, but it was for cooling, keeping combustion temperatures under control at extended loads. That's why this was used. That's why it's used today on, performance cars. You can run higher concentrations of methanol. Some kits, you have to build the kit accordingly because some kits cannot take the high amounts of methanol because methanol in itself is highly corrosive. Ethanol isn't as corrosive. It can still be pretty hard on the kit. So you theoretically could have you could just run straight ethanol, or like an ethanol blend even. I mean, you could even pump ethanol or E85 into one of these systems, a water meth system, and do the same thing. The benefit of a water meth system is the cooling effect of the water and methanol blend. So you start off with a kit like this, right? You got your reservoir, you have your pump, you have your controller, you have some of your lines, all this crap right here, single nozzle, just running a nozzle in the what do you call it? In the throttle body? Nope. That's not going to work. It's not going to work, Jack. You need this right here. This is what you need to make the power. I thought I could make this bigger. Come on. Aha. Okay, that's really big. But yeah, right here. Because if you look, not only does each cylinder have a port, but each intake runner, each valve can be, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 intake valves. Each valve and each intake runner can receive its own stream of water methanol. Or you could even be really crazy and use water meth in one port and run like maybe, I don't know, like a more highly concentrated ethanol mix or something for just additional fueling and octane in the other. I mean, you could get crazy with something like this. But, you can still run at least one per cylinder. And you have the ability to go, what do you call it? You have the ability to go 8 nozzles versus 4 injectors on your typical kit. All right, coming back to the chat here, kind of got carried away. Echo. EMS sells a great kit. EMS does sell some good stuff. I'm not going to say they don't. But when you are looking at it through the eyes of how I'm looking at it, it's cost per performance. Like, I'm not saying that some of these companies don't make a good product. It's just when you're trying to build something and do it for a really affordable price, you have to take, it's the compromises you make. Sometimes you got to sacrifice on some things, and I'll go into it later here in the stream, the pros and cons of both port injection and water meth. But right now I'm just kind of glossing over both of them. So going back to our water meth discussion, this is what you need. You run a nozzle in each one of these, you can support up to 700 horsepower. You know, it's possible. And you're doing it for, let's see, this is $194. And like I said, you're about 700 or so. Ooh, where was I? 700 or so on a system here. And you can do it cheaper. I am doing it cheaper, which will be another whole video when the time comes. So I'm actually doing all of it in for like under 700. A system that can support more than my turbo can support. So yeah, when you think about, you have a 500 horsepower capable fuel system for $700, that even makes this kit, no, that wasn't it. This one at $1,500 look like, you know, like this is some crazy unrealistic number. Like, being able to do it for under 700 is going to be huge if I can make it work and make it work reliably. Ah, I said it, reliably. I'm sure you're all thinking that right now. You're all thinking, you know why these port injection systems exist is because the reliability of most water meth kits suck. You know, having your injection basically stop mid pull, and that's why most tuners highly discourage tuning your vehicle to be dependent on a water meth kit, which is kind of how I'm leaning towards this, because like, if you're using it supplementary, I guess, in a sense, yeah, I guess it's not too bad. Like, if your water meth kit fails, if it stops for any reason, that your car won't kill itself after the fluid flow stops, you know, that's one thing. But if your kit fails and your fluid stops flowing and you are dependent on that fuel flow, that extra octane, extra fuel coming in from that kit, and that stops and you just go and the freaking air fuel just pegs itself all the way on the lean side, things are probably going to get really hot really fast. It's not going to be a good time for that piston. So yeah, most tuners won't tune dependency for water meth. And it's for that reason. It's not that the liquid, water meth is bad. It's just most kits suck. Now you can do whatever you want. You can use different types of pumps and whatnot. You can use like a regular fuel pump. Nothing's stopping you, but they're more expensive. You know, the pumps that come with most of the kits are 150, 200. Some of them are a little bit more, 250, that are more incapable of supplying enough flow and pressure for a good amount of power. It's just the problem is with those kits or with those pumps, and it all varies, depends who you buy it from. And I never know. I don't know what to really believe. Some people have said that their pumps that they make, they redo the whole insides. The insides can, has seals and materials that can withstand the highly corrosive nature of methanol. Like, you can run 100% methanol, 100% ethanol, 100% whatever the hell you want. If you want to inject nitromethane, sure, why not? But, I don't know how much of that is to believe. I know you can buy a lot of these pumps with like Viton seals on the inside, or like a certain seal or something. So that's probably all it is, really. But most of them generally have that. So I won't personally run 100% meth. Now, there we go. My camera shut off. So I just wanted I have run 100% meth before on the SHL. I built a makeshift water meth kit. Very basic. It was a cheap pump I got off eBay. that wasn't even it was just a high pressure sprayer pump for I think it was advertised to be used with, you know, liquids like fuel, like stuff like that, but you never know. So I'm like, it was literally $15 on eBay. And I ran that with a Hobbs switch that turned on at like 10 psi, I think, 10 psi, and had a master switch. It was just a simple ground circuit, super easy. I put it together with a fogger nozzle in the charge pipe right before the throttle body, and it worked. Because at the times when I lived in Maryland, VP Racing had a distribution center in Delaware. So it was like an hour drive. So I just drove my ass up to Delaware. I went to VP Racing and I ended up getting myself 5-gallon pail of M1 water methanol. Personally, I would get a mechanical fuel pump and an engine bay surge tank. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying like, the mechanical fuel pumps are high pressure fuel pump. Yeah. But depends how long you've been watching this for. I kind of went over that a little bit earlier in the conversation where depending on your power, if you're being 500 to 600 wheel, you're looking at 2,000, 2,500 for the upgrade your high pressure fuel pump and the DI injectors to support that kind of power on fully 85. Now, I'm not sure what you could support on just 93, but doing it that way is just more reliable because it's just keeping everything how it was designed. You're not running extra lines. You're not running extra things that can fail. That's just upgrading what's already there. But you're not getting the benefit of port injection, which the port injection kits, offer benefits. I mentioned earlier in the chat, you get the atomization benefit, the cooling benefit of injecting fuel in the airstream, the intake path. So, pros and cons, but, back to the water meth. Crap, where was I on the water meth? My makeshift kit on the SHO. Yeah, anyway, it worked fine. And I even ran straight M1 methanol through that kit on that cheap pump, and it fine. It never seized up. I still have that pump. I bet I can go plug that into a 12-volt source right now and it will work. So I don't know. I know over extended periods of time, yeah, you can mess things up with running straight methanol. I don't want to run straight methanol. It's a little risky. It's a little risky. The stuff burns clear. You'll never know if something's on fire until it's too late. When you're running in a makeshift kit, not a good idea. But I did, and it worked though. I could actually watch my intake temps just go on extended runs. So it was nice, but it wasn't that great of a kit. It did kind of leak a little bit. So when I noticed it was leaking out of some areas, that's why I'm like, you know what, this just isn't a good idea. So I scrapped that, and then eventually I just ended up getting rid of the car. But now I want to redo a cheaper water meth kit and do it right this time with this car and this build. So yeah, if you do it, like I said, if you do it this way, with this kind of, thing here where you basically get you give each intake port at least one nozzle. This is how you're going to make power, right? This is the way. So, that all said and done, the safety aspect of this is the fact that you have to design the kit accordingly. You have to use a smart water methanol controller like this one here. This one will do. So I've actually ordered this right here. So this is going to basically control the pump. It's going to tell the pump, the voltage it needs to operate, to control the flow, when to turn on, when to turn off. This will also throw a code if it's low fuel fluid in the tank, if you have a float, if the valves are, if it's open and flowing, if there's open, I don't know what the open is. If there's a short, if there's a voltage problem, if there's a frequency problem. So yeah, if there is a problem with this thing, as long as it in itself doesn't fail, as long as the circuitry doesn't fail, this will send, there's like one of these wires, I think it's this brown wire right here at the bottom. This wire will basically send a grounded signal. Now, the grounded signal, depending on how you use it, you can basically use that to trip a failsafe. So on a aftermarket ECU, not a big deal. They have inputs for exactly this. On an OEM setup, you got to figure out where you're going to put that. I've thought about it. I'm still thinking about it, where I can put that ground to protect the car. If there was a failure with the water meth, since I kind of will be tuning it to be more dependent, not super dependent, but it's going to be dependent-ish, depending on how much I actually get out of my turbo max. But if it fails, I'm still trying to figure out where that wire can go to make the car go into protect itself. I have to kind of figure out, strategize. Basically, the idea is, it's going to go to some sensor, and it's going to have the sensor report a value that in the tune I will set to, like, probably, I don't know if you would go to the map and see. I have to figure that out. I'm working on it. There are other controllers that are more sophisticated than this, but the point being is, if you have a controller like this that will allow the car to throw itself into, limp mode, if it fails, then this is not a bad idea. Tuning yourself dependent on this is not a bad idea, because you're tuning yourself dependent on any type of fuel you do. So if you go with this kit here and you're running more flow, stop it. You're running more flow through the injectors here, and oftentimes they end up tuning where most of your fuel will come through the port injection, not the DI. So if you're running most of your fuel through this, and if any one of these injectors sticks open or sticks closed, you're going to have a bad day. That can still happen. It's less likely to happen because you can use some decent quality injectors, and it's all OEM quality for the most part, but you can still have the same what do you call it, problem exists. The same risks exist with that kind of setup. Let's go back to the chat. What happens when that one pump supporting all the meth fails, or even a slight clock? Well, that's why you have to run a controller like that. I have yet to figure out. It says it can sense flow. Don't know where and how it does that. So I have to work that out. But even if I have to get some type of flow sensor or something, not that big of a deal, I guess. I have to figure out how all that works. But what happens if the argument is your intake pump, all the other parts on your car are less likely to fail than a water meth pump on its own. So that's the thing. The water meth, they're more likely to fail, but you can have the failure in any other component. So, like I said, you get a port injection kit, and injector sticks shut, you go lean in that cylinder. Same thing can happen. It's just less likely, but you still have the same risk. When you're trying to make power, you can either spend crap tons of money to mitigate your risk and be able to run, Big Daddy high pressure fuel pump, Big Daddy VI injectors. So you're running low duty cycle and getting your power. You're running a port injection kit and all that, where you're not dependent on the port injection kit So if something happens and you lose a port injector, you're not going to go super lean and kill that cylinder. So you can be safe about it and still make good power, but you're spending just ridiculous amounts of money. So that's kind of the argument here. But there's, yeah, I mean, yeah, what happens if a nozzle clogs, the pump stops, a line gets, just the main line gets clogged up, the same thing happens. If you're tuned for more fuel and you lose fuel, you go lean, you know? It's just being able to implement the setup in a way where it's as most reliable as possible. Any plans on external blow-off valve? Maybe. I'm not sure if I want to upgrade to an external blow-off valve. I'm now messing with the tuning aspect of the car. I'm starting to see where you might be able to utilize the factory recirc valve, assuming that it doesn't bleed pressure, as your advantage, because you can control when the recirc valve opens, and that can be a benefit for controlling boost at higher levels. Hell, it could even be a benefit as a fail-safe, you know, if that was kind of one of the things I was thinking of for that, what do you call it? For the controller, the AEM controller, taking that ground wire there and running it to the recirc valve and basically having that pop the recirc valve open. I just don't know how much boost that can actually bleed. Is it enough boost where it would prevent a lean condition? You know, things are going to have to get figured out. I'm going to be doing a lot of testing with a system like that to make sure things are good. Yeah, it's a rabbit hole. You spend a good amount of money and you spend more on supporting mods, pretty much. So that's the thing. You know, my channel is not all. Basically, ever since I started my channel, because I've been a broke ass, and most of y'all are the same. You know, we don't want to be spending. We want to spend all the money on our cars, but we can't. We got bills. We got adult responsibilities, right? So, being able to do things on the cheap and still get expensive results, hey, that's what this channel is all about. So if I can make it happen, I'm going to make it happen. So we'll see. I'm not guaranteeing anything. I'm just crazy enough to give it a shot. That's all. So we'll see. That's the thing. I personally think if you're aiming for 500 to 600 wheel horsepower, if you want to do it more reliably, more safely, obviously an auxiliary supplemental, I keep saying auxiliary, supplemental port injection kit is the way to go. The Ecoboost is pretty new to me. I got my experience building with more in RB builds. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know. I mean, I've never messed with anything Japanese like that. The only Japanese car I ever messed with was the Camry, V6 Camry I had. You know, that was it. So I don't know too much about any of that stuff. But I know the RBs can be tricky to work with. So like you're going from one temperamental platform to another. God, Lord help you. But the port injection kits, they're the better way to go. If you want to take the chance and save yourself money, you can still support that same amount of power with a water meth kit and do it half, like I'm going to try to do. If you are going big raw dog power, you are shooting for the moon. You may end up, depending on how much power you may end up with all three of them. You may end up with big high pressure fuel pump, big DI injectors, big port injection injectors, and water meth, you know, like just to keep everything happy. Hell, and you may even just throw some nitrous in there for, you know, why the hell not, right? Some of these people, I know some of the Ecoboost cars, like I think Jesse, like the beginning of his build, Like when he really started pushing that thing past 900 wheel, that thing had it all. It had every fuel system. It had nitrous. It did have nitrous, right? Like that thing had it all. Just trying to squeeze 900 wheel horsepower out of that thing. Golly. God bless him, man. Man, I don't know how he hasn't given up yet. And just realize that he needs to get that cylinder head figured out. Telling you, that's the weak link of these cars. Get that cylinder head figured out. That's all we got to do. That's it. That's all we have to do. Yeah, I mean, so, okay. Pull myself back here. Pros and cons of water meth port fuel injection. Let's start with the pros for both. Pros of port fuel injection. It's more reliable, typically. You know, you're probably never going to have an injector stick on you. You're probably never going to have a controller fail. Probably not. Not to say you can't. God knows anymore. Stuff's just made like crap. But you're probably not. And, you know, super easy to plumb. You know, it right there, all in the engine bay. So much more easier to install than a water meth kit. And tuning it should be pretty easy too. I would say it's probably easier to tune than water meth, I would imagine. So yeah, that's all good pros of a port injection kit. Pros of water meth. You get, you know, it's more affordable. You can definitely do it cheaper to support the amount of power you're likely looking to make. In our case, 500 to 600 wheel. You know, you get a better cooling effect, and you get more octane per volume with a water meth kit than you would with a port fuel kit and running straight E85. So, right? No, that's probably not right. Because you would have to run straight meth for that to be correct. But yeah, you see what I'm saying. But you're pretty close. So, but if you're running a blend of, you know, like an E50 blend or something, yeah, you're going to be on par. So you can have a higher concentration or a higher octane amount per, you know, per how much you're putting in versus a port injection system on a water meth, especially if you run all 8 of those dang intake nozzles, and then you can inject a lot of fluid in. So, but you have that extra benefit of the mix of the water. It's the cooling effect. That is what the benefit is. To keep the top of that piston cool. We all know what happens when top of those Ecoboost pistons get too hot, especially if it's a stock piston. Boy, do I know that one. So yeah, that's the whole big thing about water meth. So that's a huge pro. It's cheaper. And I'm trying to think, like, I don't know how much it is now. I guess let's look it up real quick. So like the injection fluid, you can make your own. I used to do that. Ooh, hold on. I used to do that. Like I said, I bought M1 before I ran straight M1. I was just mixing it with distilled water. But let's see here. It's I know they used to be Boost Juice. That's usually what they called it from Snow Performance. Boost Juice. How much is that going for? $14. It used to be $8 for this stuff. $8. Okay, this is for how many? Four gallons. Okay, 4 gallons of Boost Juice for $45 plus shipping. So it'd be like 50 some dollars. So if we pull up a calculator, I don't know, let's just say you see, I need to wish I knew, I guess, I don't know. I want to just basically compare price per gallon. So 45, I'm just going to do 45 divided by 4. Okay, so assuming you can get it, so let's say you get it shipped to your door for $15. Okay, $15 divide by crap. What do I want to do there? 15 divide by I didn't quite think this through. What would be the math on this? God, I'm stupid. I wasn't planning to do this, otherwise I've already had thought this out. I guess you would have to do 4 gallons because I need to. Okay. 55, so say 55 shipped to your door. $13.75. Okay, what I say, 15 on a single. So okay, so you're around $15 a gallon. There used to be, and there was another one. There's another. Ooh boy, there's another one I found. It's made by VP Racing, and it's you can get it in a water meth mix. So it's a safer alternative. Speed Sauce. Here it is. And what's Amazon sell it for? $122. What? Hold on. What the hell? VP Racing. Okay, well this is even cheaper. This is $8.99 a gallon. Go away. Shipped. I don't know how much they charge for shipping. But this is $8.99 a gallon. This is a water ethanol mix. So this is actually what I'll likely end up running myself. Just so I'm not I don't have the super highly corrosive methanol, a little bit safer fuel. Let's see. It delivers added octane when needed thanks to the ethanol's 115 octane rating. Yeah, but how much octane is in the jug? That's like what I want to know, right? So I don't know, but $9 a gallon. It's kind of expensive if you think about it, because your car, the way I'm looking at it, the car is not going to run without this. It's not going to make the power. It's not going to make full power without this. So without this, at $9 a gallon, plus the normal, price per 93, which around my way I end up paying like 3 gallons, $3 a gallon. So $13 a gallon. You look at it that way, then it kind of sucks. You save the money up front to get the be able to get the kit, the water meth kit. But by the time over time, you're paying $13 a gallon for your fuel mix, essentially. Where if you do a port kit, it's more money up front, but you're going to save long term because you can just pump $2.50 E85 from the pump. So, but the way I look at it is I'm not looking to run full power all the time. So that's the way I look at it. You're not in full power all the time. It's not like it's not like you're going to go through a gallon of that injection fluid the same rate you would go through E85. It ain't going to happen. You're going to end up using, depending on how much you're spraying, you're going to end up using, maybe a cup. You go watt for a couple gears pull, maybe a quarter mile run, you use a cup, 2 cups, maybe 3 cups max. So, although 4 cups to a gallon. So, maybe you kind of, I don't know. But generally that's if you're continuous throttle, but if you're not, and you only use it for wide open throttle, pedal to the floor, full boost operation, I don't think you're going to go through it that quick. So that's my thought on that. Only reason to use meth is if you don't have ethanol available. The best route is high pressure fuel pump. If cost is an issue, then port injection is better. I still think port injection is better regardless, only because you get the added benefit of the atomization, the cooling effect. I would, if it wasn't meth, water meth, I would go supplemental port injection all day, 100%. If I was looking to spend the money down the road, I may just do that, depending on how crazy I want to go with this car. But I would only upgrade the high pressure fuel pump and DI injectors if I need to. But I think, for most people, I think port injection is the best. We run double fuel rails and run two stages of port fuel injections on the RB30, RB28. The first stage is like 1,000 cc, the second stage is over 2,000. So I was thinking of doing something like that, depending on how far I want to push the water meth system. Like I said, that adapter plate, where is it? That plate has you can put 2 nozzles per cylinder, right? So theoretically, you could run 2 pumps and another set of nozzles that kicks on at a higher higher load. Like, it could be a double stage setup. And I've thought about that, and you can even mix the fuels. You can even have a separate tank and run a different type of fuel as well. So I've played with all of that in my mind, and I don't even know. But even a kit like this, and I'm sure on an RB, this is probably what you're talking about. You're running a kit like this, and you're running a dual stage injector, or dual stage system, because you're probably pushing, 12, over 1,000 horsepower, I'm sure. So you're what's an RB? What's an RB anything? Make RB28 on. They probably have to be running 40 plus PSI boost, right? To make like 1,000, 1,200 or so. Something like that. So I guess that's why you run those 2-stage systems like that. But I was thinking about doing the same thing for, the water meth, to run a 2-stage system and see how that goes. Because I don't know. I don't know what to... I don't know exactly. Everything's theory, right? It's just, this is all theoretical until I put the testing in motion. And we'll see. We'll see how much I can get out. I don't know whether I want to run 2 sets of nozzles and run 1 pump with a solenoid that allows the other set to open at a certain boost pressure on a Hobb switch or something, or run a whole nother pump with a whole nother, like just 2 independent setups. But at that point, it's kind of dumb, because then I'm spending the same amount that I would just a couple $100 more. I would just get a, port injection system. So it depends which way I want to go. I'm not sure. It's tough, man. It's just tough to know which way you want to go with it. And I think that's what makes water meth really, it makes it, what's the word? Desirable, not desirable. You know what I'm trying to say? Like attractive, appealing. That's the word. It makes it appealing because it's so cheap. So cheap. You can do it. You can make the power you want to make and do it for so little money. So that's really the pros of both. Kind of glossed over the cons, kind of got sidetracked. So really quick, before I get sidetracked even more, let me go over the cons of both systems, so I can just put that away. So cons of port injection system: it's more expensive. First con, it's more expensive. Camera shut off again. I thought this had an auto timer, but there it goes. More expensive, and it It's probably that's probably the only downside to it, honestly. It's just more expensive compared to a water meth kit. It's probably the only con I could probably say, right? You're not going to get the same cooling effect with a port injection system on E85 than you would a water meth kit. So that's another con. It's just different fuel, different chemistry, different way it's injecting it, not the same. So that's another con if you look at it that way. Not really that much to look at there. Like I said, it's kind of hard to knock a supplemental port injection system. Now, cons for the water meth kits are a bit longer. Obviously, con number one, reliability. Reliability can suffer pretty good on these kits, depending on who you get it from. The pumps generally are the first things to fail. Sometimes the controllers take a crap. The nozzles can get clogged up. Oh, excuse me, but first and foremost, definitely going to be running filters, and they're going to be regularly checked and cleaned. And so, you know, if you do it right, you should have better reliability. I'm thinking a lot of the reliability issues with the water meth kits are probably the very simple ones that operate either off a hop switch or operate off a momentary switch or something. You don't have an inline filter. You don't have halfway decent anything. You don't have a progressive controller with fail safes. But if you do a water meth kit right, is it going to be more reliable than a port injection kit? No, but you can definitely make it more reliable. But the con overall is it's less reliable. The other con compared to a port injection kit, that it's more in depth to install. Depending on how you install it, the type of vehicle you're installing it in, and in the case of what most of I do, S550 Mustang, you could put it up front in the engine bay. You could. For me, I'm putting it in the trunk, remote mounting it in the trunk, and running a line up front. So there's more plumbing involved for sure. Because then you got to run, well, like I said, if it depends, I don't know. I change like the wind, but if I do what I want to do, where is it? And I can do something like this, like that just looks good. Oh yeah. Having some nice stainless lines running to each port like that. Obviously, it won't look like that. It would be the other way around, really, because these would be here on the flange. So, but obviously, that takes some time to do that, right? It takes more time to install these kits. The wiring is not straightforward. You have to wire the pump to something. You have to wire. Oh, I got rid of that controller. You have to wire this into everything so it gets a input when to turn on, and the failsafe trigger to something to protect your car. So overall, it is so much more pain in the ass to install a water meth kit. So that's one of the big cons too. Outside of reliability and installation, the installation of it, there's really not much more. Oh, and I guess you could say that, you have to run a separate fuel. Obviously, I just showed you that VP Racing, the speed sauce. I love saying sauce like that. Sauce. That can, $8 a gallon plus shipping. So you're probably $13, $14 a gallon, and you're probably going to go through, like the way I'm doing it, you're probably going to go through a gallon. Let's say every 2 or 3 quarter-mile runs, maybe you'll go through a gallon. So, the higher cost per fuel, obviously, compared to a port kit, which you could just run E85 from the pump at $2. I think right now it's like 260, 270 most stations. It was 230 like a couple months ago. So, you know how that goes. But with E85, you end up using so much more of it too. So while it's cheaper, then you end up using more of it. So, it pros and cons to everything, right? But I think that's it, right? That's about it. I think there's not much more to really say. I guess before I end the chat, I can talk about the fact that I mean, obviously, I've hinted it. You probably need a piggyback ECU and splice it on the main harness. Yeah, true. So like the micro squirt, because I still have all the software. I still have all the software to tune the micro squirt. So you can still get them for $300. So you could do that, and you can run it parallel. I swear, I wish I just ran that parallel with the factory ECU in that Mustang. I was so stupid. I learned. But yeah, you could run it parallel and run it to, like, let's say, I'm trying to think what you would run it to, though, because you still have to be able to trigger something in the Ford's main ECU to go into limp mode. So I'm not sure how you would really do that, though, even with a piggyback setup. So I'm not sure. Like I said, we'll figure it out. Lots of experimentals on this channel if you haven't figured it out. But yeah, just going into all this, obviously you know that I'm doing a water meth kit to start things off with my car. The main idea why I chose water meth, obviously cost. Cost was one of the biggest contributing factors, but it was because I don't want to have this engine fail in the same way the last one did. And I till this day don't even have a clue what caused it to do what it did. But knowing that pre-ignition and detonation was a contributing factor to the damage of the engine, the only thing I can take away, and I mentioned it before, is that day it was extremely hot. We're talking about 101, I think, degrees ambient temperature, and the car was heat soaked. Really heat soaked. Intake temps were probably, I'm talking about manifold intake temps, were probably 200 degrees or more. And it wasn't long after letting the car sit and getting into boost is when it crapped out. So that's why I'm really choosing to go water meth, is the cooling. The octane and the supplemental fueling benefits is all great. It's the cooling and keeping the top of the piston cool under high combustion temps, especially in the Florida heat. That is why I'm really pushing this setup on my car. Oh yeah, charge air on the intake side needs more cooling. Are you still stock intercooler? No. So I am running a 3-core. It's a cheap eBay intercooler, but it does pretty good. Even when it's heat soaked, it will still drop the temps within 10 degrees of ambient. Still pretty good. So it's not bad. But it doesn't help the fact that in Florida during the summer, you're sitting in traffic and in 80, 90, 95 degree weather, especially in July, August, and September. So the car gets heat soaked quickly. So what happens if this, under normal driving circumstances, right? You're sitting in traffic, lots of traffic. They're doing a lot of construction on the roadways around here because there's a lot of people coming into Florida. and they're starting to expand the roads, do different entrances, and redoing the ramps to the highways and stuff. Always a backup to those ramps, right? So hypothetical, which is a very plausible scenario. You're sitting in traffic, cars baking in the Florida heat, 95, 98 degrees, sitting in traffic, waiting to get on the dang highway. Things are heat soaked. Intake temps are 160 degrees in the manifold, just cooking. Going on the highway, some idiot in front of you, not paying attention, doesn't really go. They kind of jump out in traffic, messes you up, so you either punch it to get with the flow of traffic or lose out. So you go to punch it, your intake temps are probably still 100 and whatever, 50, 60. The intercooler still hasn't had time to cool off because you just started moving. And you hit 30, you hit 25, 26 pounds of boost, 20, whatever, on a good setup. And then you hear the awful, just rattling sound of detonation. And before you know it, you're sitting on the side of the road with no power because you have a hole in a piston. I don't want to do that again. So I like in that scenario, knowing that the water meth kit is on all the time, ready to rock. If intake temps were super hot, just sitting in traffic, I just got on the ramp to the highway. I need to get into it so I can merge into the traffic because some idiot wasn't paying attention. I put the hammer down. Pump turns on, starts spraying methanol in, water meth in, water F in. Intake temps are dropping 10, 20, 30 degrees. So now we're 160, 170. Then we quickly drop to 120. Then before you know it, you drop, under, like once you got air flowing through the intercooler, it's still spraying. Then you're back under 100 degrees watt. The car is happy. Tops of the pistons are happy. I'm happy because I didn't have to get stuck behind some idiot. And all is good. So that's why I'm doing water meth. It's for the cooling. You can get that. You can get the cooling with port injection. It's just not going to be as much because the nozzles are different. On like the way the spray pattern is a bit different on the water meth nozzles. They atomize a little bit better than in a fuel injector would. So it's more of a mist, right? And just a blend of water and methanol or ethanol is going to have a higher cooling effect than just a E85 kit on or E85 port. Stubies have those intercooler sprays. Yeah, I was actually going to do an intercooler sprayer. I still may. I don't know. Actually, the line I have that I'm using to run from the trunk to the engine bay was originally bought over a year ago, before the engine took a crap on me. Actually, it was bought over a year ago to do a intercooler sprayer, which I may still do. It depends, but I think the water meth will certainly do everything I need to do. Not to mention, you go on a track or something, they're not going to let you spray any of that because they don't want the water coming off the intercooler onto the track surface, right? They don't want that. So a lot of times, if you're just cruising around on your own, sure, fine, you can use that. But you try to go to a track and run that, not going to have a good time. They're not going to be happy, and you wouldn't want to do that. You wouldn't want to spray something and have water go on the track and potentially put someone else at risk and their car. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to actually make a intercooler setup with spraying the intercooler with CO2. So they have kits that do that, by the way. They do. But I never did it because after a lot of research, I realized it just was not worth it. Was not beneficial at all. You would go through so much CO2 that in the end, it wasn't the cost to run a system like that. You still wouldn't get that much cooling. And yeah, it was just a mess. But if I, you know, as long as I can do everything right, water meth, I have a full custom kit. So obviously we're using this controller here, and I'm using this intake spacer here. I'm going to start off with 4 nozzles, see where that puts me. And then of course, then I'll look into adding more. And I'm using an AEM pump, and I'm running all AN lines. So I'm not running any, you can get these kits with like, see if I can find one. Ooh, excuse me. You can get these kits with like a quick lock fitting, and it uses like a nylon hose. Most of the kits come that way, and I don't like that. I like AN fittings, braided hoses. Yeah, like this is mostly what you'll find in these kits. That's why I really didn't choose a kit. I didn't choose a kit because most of the kits don't use braided hoses. They run these quick lock hoses. Where is the... Of course, I wanted a big picture of that, but you know what I'm saying. So I don't need to tell you. So I'm running AM controller, custom fuel or custom tank. Yeah, that fuel pump. But see, actually, this is good. So you can see, crap, damn it. You can see in the pump up here, it has that quick lock fitting. So the one I have has MPT or whatever, a 1/8 inch. So you just go 1/8 inch MPT to -4 AN fitting, and yeah, good to go. So that's that. And the other stuff's, the nozzles I have yet to work out, because that does make, the nozzles do make these kits, or make this expensive. If you're running more than one nozzle, if you run a true water meth nozzle, they can go for about $30 a nozzle. So I don't know. Let's see here. $30 a nozzle. $30 a nozzle. If you had 8 of those, $240 in nozzles. Motor City Fast. What? IHACD? IHAC. Is that an acronym, or am I missing something here? So I don't know exactly what type of nozzle I'm using, but I may go with a water meth. Or like most water meth nozzles, I may go something different. We'll see. I'm going to find it. I'm going to find out one way or another. If I can go the route I want to go, I'll save myself significant money. And even if I want to run all 8 nozzles. So we'll see. I don't know. But that's really one of the other crap parts, is those nozzles do get expensive. So other than that, and then figuring out where the put the fail-safe trigger, what I can hook that to protect the car. We'll have to work on that too. That'd be a fun little mystery. I have the Snow Performance 2.5 on my SHO, and I like it. IT's dropped another 20 degrees. Yeah, and that's why I want this kind of setup, is exactly that. Keep IATs down. I mean, if you're a stock intercooler car, SHO, Mustang, I wouldn't even be looking anywhere else but a water meth kit. Just just because of the cooling benefits. You know, you're not going to get the physical cooling of the intercooler, so you can get the chemical cooling of the water meth. So yeah, that's exactly where I'm going. And I'm sure, Motor City Fats, I'm sure you've seen my videos before of the makeshift, really, really poorly put together kit I had on my SHO. But I did it for like $150. Yeah, I think so, like $150. But it worked. Intake temps would definitely drop. So, and the idea is to get the chemical cooling will lower the intake temps so the intercooler can cool down. Like once the intercooler catches up and cools down from the airflow, then it's not such a big deal. It's mainly all about, in my particular application, it's all about safety. Even though at some point in the process, I will be injecting a lot of fluid in the quest of supplemental fuel for power. So it's kind of a caveat, right? Like, well, okay, well, if you tune to be dependent on meth, that's risky. And but your whole idea of getting a water meth kit's for safety. That's my logic. You guys still watch me. No, but I think we can make it work. How long have we been on the stream here? Anyone got an idea? I lost track of time. Oh wow, it's been way over an hour because I started this before 8. It's now 9:18. Whew. When I get talking, man, sometimes it's hard to stop. But yeah. What do you think? It's only 2 of you now watching. I really thought more of you would tuned in, but sadly you didn't. Would you like to see more conversations like this as a live stream instead of just doing like my typical, pre-recorded video and just kind of following up with everyone in the comments? Would you rather have open dialogue? Like, are you willing to sit through an hour of me talking about something? Like, should I continue to do this kind of video? Let me know. I've been wanting to push live streams now for a while, and I've been saying that. I just haven't done it. It's a lot of work to get things right. Like to get all what you're seeing on screen right now set up took 2 days worth of work, and I don't even know if I like it. But it's all right. It's better than what I had. So we'll see. But if you want to see more stuff, if you want to see more or have more conversations like this over a live stream, let me know. Perhaps instead of just speaking my mind through the GoPro and, editing it and having you watch it whenever I upload it, maybe I can actually get on a schedule with live streams. We can have discussions over stuff because I have a lot of things to talk about. And actually, another thing I want to talk about is with Ecoboost cars and tuning, and some, known tuners and how they're tuning the cars. So yeah, if this is what you want to see more of, we'll do more live streams. I guess I'll just have to see when's a good time for everyone. We'll plan accordingly, but I think that's going to wrap it up here for this live stream. It doesn't need to go on too much long. It doesn't need to go on any longer. I've already said everything I need to say in this, and I think that's finally going to wrap it up here. So, of course, you know what to do. Like it, share it once it's done, and, just keep a lookout for the next Karz Kreated video. Thanks, guys. I'll see you in the next video.